Hi everybody, how you doing? My name is Bill Hoy, and this is another video I'm making here about climate engineering, weather modification. So let me just get right to it. Let me start by talking about who they are. In the last video, I mentioned a couple times they, and I really didn't completely explain who they are. And that is not quite as simple. From my investigations, I've seen that first, the U.S. military is involved, first and foremost, as far as one of the main facilitators, manifestors of this is the U.S. military. And once we start talking about the U.S. military, because there's a lot of talk about there, I just want to make clear that when I criticize the U.S. military, I'm not advocating for any other military out there. All militaries engage in planetary destruction. And once again, please do not believe me. Look it up for yourself. The U.S. military just happens to be the largest military in the world, so they're doing the most activities and the most polluting activities. Don't believe me, look it up. Look up the fact that, let's see, the United States has, oh boy, I don't want to mess this statistic up. I think something like 800 military bases in 100 some odd countries. Once again, it's a statistic I haven't looked at in a while. But what I'm getting at, I'll confirm that. What I'm getting at is look up the amount of pollution that goes on these military bases. Just look up your local military base and see the amount of pollution that is engaged in. And let it be known that all militaries pollute. All militaries pollute. That's just a fact. Don't believe me, look it up. So that would be the primary facilitator of these climate engineering programs is the U.S. military, using U.S. military jets. I think they're DC-10s, KC-130s are the primary deployers of solar radiation management programs, which the deployment of these programs is by jet airplane dispersions in the upper trough and lower strat, maybe even higher. These light scattering particles, that this is their words. Once again, you can look at the documents. You can look at the November 8th, 2017 Senate hearing on geoengineering. You can look at an article in The Guardian. Trump administration approves geoengineering. I think that was in February 2017. Trump administration approves geoengineering. I think they describe it, once again, a lot of this information I haven't looked at in a while, but I think they actually describe what their intentions are. I know the Collier's Magazine article, they describe what their intentions are of solar radiation management, which is using airplanes to disperse reflective particles like aluminum into the upper atmosphere to reflect the sunlight and warm the planet. Cool the planet. I made a mistake there. Cool the planet. So the military would be the number one facilitator of this. the individuals that are doing the most work in these programs and putting them into action. Behind them would be, at least from what I've seen, are the defense contractor corporations like Raytheon. Raytheon, which is a defense contractor, from what I understand, is behind doing the weather forecasts for NOAA, the National Oceanic Administration. I don't know what the other A is, but National Oceanic Administration something. NOAA, they're in charge of weather forecasts and stuff like that. So you have defense contractors. There's also a company called American Elements, which I'm pretty sure mines and refines aluminum. Once again, look into that. Look into American Elements. I think they're a contributor to this. Let's see. Then you have the central bankers, the individuals who run the Federal Reserve, which, for those of you who don't know about the Federal Reserve, I would request looking at the movie Fiat Empire. I think it talks about the Federal Reserve and how the Federal Reserve, there's nothing federal about it. The Federal Reserve is a private banking company where money is printed at a rate that's beyond comprehension, and the more money they print, the more the dollar gets devalued. The less purchasing power we have with our dollar. But that's, I don't want to get too far into that. The central bankers that run the Federal Reserve printing money for these programs. Don't believe me, look it up. I think the number is 21 trillion in a... Sorry about that. My cat again. In a 2017 audit, I think it was, 2016 audit, $21 trillion missing from the Pentagon. 21 trillion. Printing money for these programs. A lot of people think that taxpayers' money pays for these programs. It does, but it's not enough. You can't run a military the size, let's see, the U.S. military is the size of the next 10 countries' militaries combined. You can't run a military like that and these climate engineering programs, which are global. One thing I didn't mention in my last broadcast, 750-page document, ENMOD document, environmental modification document from 1978, which is 750 pages. You can look it up online. You can look at it in full. I didn't look at it in full, but I looked at some of the stuff. Basically, what I've seen in summation is that it's a contract between the three major superpowers, the United States, Russia, and China, as far as the deployment of climate engineering, weather modification. Don't believe me, look it up. So, going back to the U.S. military and these programs, the Federal Reserve you can't. I don't think, based on what I've looked into, run these programs, these climate engineering programs, on just taxpayer money. You need much more money. You got to print it. And that's what they're doing. They're printing money. So you got the central bankers You got I'm starting to run over time. Man, I could talk forever, but with these YouTube videos, if I go over 10 minutes, it might not register. So who are the they that I talked about? You got the U.S. military, defense contractors, American elements, central bankers, the guys who run the feds, the banks, the big bankers. And then there's also people above them, your royals and your people that are come from long leadership bloodlines, members of these skull and bones organizations and these Freemasons and stuff like that, these individuals that have what's called occulted information, knowledge about how the human psyche works and stuff like that, and they're withholding that information. That's, once again, this is a shame. It's taken me so long just to explain just a small part of this, but I can't, take this too long because, once again, I might not get this video on YouTube. But that's a start. That's where the they, I said the they, and that's from what I've seen, the they are in these climate modification programs. So, don't believe me, investigate. For those of you who think, oh, if Donald Trump knew about this, he would do something about it. Time to wake up, folks. This has nothing to do with Donald Trump. This has nothing to do with Donald Trump. This is way above Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton, the whole nine, all of them. This is way above them. They do what they're told. Believe me. I guess I don't want to go too much over time, so that's the day, folks. That's a very small start of it. Good luck, everybody. Investigate.